before I get started, I just want to thank my sponsors and encourage you to explore their businesses. Without them, this just doesn't happen. And if you enjoy the episode, give us a like, hit the subscribe button, share it with your friends. Now, I call this the podcast of unexpected conversations. Hell, this entire podcast was unexpected. And there's a story behind that we're going to get into. But these guys host a podcast called the Fitness Podcast. I said fitness, not fitness, which is awesome. I'm a big fan, and I can't wait to talk to them. Welcome, Zach, Tucker, and Jeremy Grater. How are you, boys? Oh, so this all came about because I was on Threads, and you guys posted a thing going, hey, if you have a podcast, we'd love to be on it. And I'm like, well, damn, I have a podcast. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I'm like, I'll just sit back and say, why don't you come on my podcast? And they responded right back and said, absolutely, we will, And then I said, well, I probably should look into their podcast. I looked at it and I'm like, this is great. This is awesome. You guys are doing wonderful stuff. You have to tell me, I loved your journeys, each of you on this way to fitness. But how did you guys connect, and how did you guys decide to do this?
Oh, I blame Zach. It's 100% Zach's fault.
Yeah, I think it is. So I'll take that credit. Jeremy and I met, let's see, we met, our daughters are 12-ish, almost 13. So we met like 13 years ago. Our wives actually were pregnant at the same time and doing a running club together. They were supposed to do some triathlon after they gave birth. That's what women do. I get it.
And
they got talking. Yeah. I mean,
it's just a quick thing. You just throw that in at the end of it.
Because giving birth isn't hard enough, right? But they got talking, and they, like, oh, my husband likes Star Wars too. Oh, my husband's a nerd too. Oh, my husband's kind of a geek. So like there was a lot of similarities. So they set up the breakfast where we sat down, met each other, and shields up completely. We're like sizing each other up. Like, I don't know about this guy. I don't know about that guy. And then that breakfast led to another outing to the point where, Jeremy and I just became really good friends. And then we started talking about all the things of like, hey, how are you feeling being a new dad? I don't know. Should I be telling another guy how I'm feeling? I'm not so sure that's right. And then we just kind of got open with each other and vulnerable and started having really, deep, vulnerable conversations between each other and became even better friends. And along the way, those conversations helped both of us, in things I'm doing that helped Jeremy and things Jeremy was doing that helped me. And we kind of realized like, hey, guys aren't really having these conversations. And I'll let Jeremy finish it up, but he was wrapping up his other podcast at the time. And I just had this like feeling. I was like, we should really, like do a podcast on this and like show people that it's okay to do this. Cause it helps people to be a little vulnerable, talk about your feelings. You don't have to be the guys all the time. So I was like, let's do a podcast. And he was like, absolutely not. Hell no, we're not doing that. As
anybody with half a brain should say.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it seemed like a terrible idea because I was pretty new on this journey and didn't feel like I was anybody who should be telling other people how to find happiness or wellness or fitness or any of that stuff. Like Zach said, I was wrapping up another show. And Gary, you've got some experience in morning radio. It was very much morning show style, right? But it was my brother, a friend of mine, a friend of ours, and we basically would just get hammered and tell stupid stories about our lives. And that show came to an end because my lifestyle changed. I wasn't drinking anymore. I wasn't doing the same stupid things that warranted telling stories about it. And so that show came to an end. And as I was sort of cleaning up my life, Zach had this idea. And I thought, no way, why would I do that? But he was right. The conversations we were having were helping me. I was losing weight. I was finding clarity. I was finding all this peace in my life. And I thought, why not? And so I sort of explored the genre and discovered that, if we just share our experience, we don't necessarily have to be experts, but if it helps other guys the way it helps us to hear the conversations that we're having, why not? Let's do it. And so here we are several years later, having spoken to some of our heroes in this industry and really just trying to help other guys who are at that beginning stage of where we were, 13, 14 years ago, trying to figure out what is the next path, what's the next corner to take to try to find a little bit more peace, a little bit more happiness, and just a slightly better life.
It's trying to figure this out. I mean, I have a 14 and a 12-year-old, right? At this age, I call this the face of optimism, right? Is what I did. But I totally get the challenges. What I've enjoyed about your podcast. I love the fact that, Zach reminds me of myself in the fact that he's curmudgeonly and at some point everyone should die. And Jeremy, the fact that, and again, my friend, I played golf with my buddy one time. And he goes, "You're like the Tony Robbins of golf. Nothing ever goes wrong. You're always encouraging. You're always this." And I'm like, yeah. And so when I look at you guys, it's like, man, those are, if you had the devil and the angel on each side of your shoulders, those are my guys. So now when I see the devil and the angels on my shoulders, there's going to be Zach and there's going to be Jeremy. And
excellent.
That's all
my life's goals are complete. I'm
That's
done.
Right. We can wrap it up. It's been a good run. Thanks, everybody.
Now, Zach, because you were at one point 300 pounds. I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, I was. I was just not healthy. It goes all the way back to childhood. And this is one of the things that we talk about is, like, you can't just fix things. Like, you got to understand why something's broken in the first place. But, when I was up until 5, I was with my mom and she would disappear for days on end. There'd be no food in the house. I didn't have any food. Oh, yeah, no, like all kinds of things. Like, she would leave on a Thursday and come back Tuesday, and I was 4.
You could have been a Judd. That's the same thing Naomi Judd did.
It was not good, but she wouldn't leave me with any food. Like, to this day, one of my favorite meals is just raw hamburger because I couldn't cook it, and that's all that was in the fridge, and I would just eat that. I had no food, and then, Child Protective Services came in, took me away from her. My dad took me, and he had cookies, and he had ice cream, and he had all this food in his house. And I was like, well, I don't know if I'm ever going to get food again. So I just learned how to eat all the junk food. And, by the time I was 18, 19, I was 300 pounds eating at McDonald's every day. I was at 297 when I finally started making some changes. And it was, I got through college and did all the things. And I got my very first job, and I smoked cigarettes at the time too. So, like, really, really unhealthy lifestyle. And my boss, my first day of work, my boss was like, "Oh, I didn't realize you smoked. I would have never hired you if I'd known you smoked." And that kind of like popped my eyes, and that was my moment. And I ended up quitting smoking. And then they ran a 5K at that job in the summertime. And I was a social butterfly, and I wanted to hang out with people and be part of the crowd. So I was like, I'll run a 5K at 300 pounds and just quit smoking. Didn't really exercise. And I went and did like one lap around this indoor track that was 9 laps to a mile. So, it was super short. I did one lap and like fell over on my knees, couldn't breathe, felt like I was going to throw up. And it was like that moment, I was like, all right, that's it. Coming back tomorrow, I'm doing 2. And the next day I did 3, 4. And then 6 months later, my sister-in-law got me one of those belt pouches that has like little drink holders on it for runners. Mm-hmm. And I remember really opening sexy. That going,
chicks dig those. They look so good.
Oh, they are totally, right? Especially if you have a gel or two hanging out.
Yeah, baby. You got that now.
But I remember opening that up and going, why would she get me this? This is for a runner. And like, I didn't realize that over the last 6 months, I went from like not running to running. I was like, oh, I just ran 10 or 12 miles the other day. And the weight just kind of dropped off. And then I started changing what I ate so I could run better. And then the weight dropped more. And then I started working out, lifting weights, doing things. And now, today, 20 years after that whole event, I am the happiest, healthiest I've ever been, because not only did I lose a ton of weight, but like all the exercise and all the clean eating, it really helped me like manage all the mental health issues, anxiety, depression that were running rampant because of it. So, here I am, 44 years old, and I'm in okay shape. I could stand to lose a couple more LBS, but I'm okay.
I hate people like you. I'm all right. I have internal organs that weigh more than you, Chief. Jeremy, yours was yours was not as, and I didn't know that. I mean, Lord gosh, that's a topic that we could go down, and you guys have for a long time. But Jeremy, you were saying you made these changes, that you were drinking and telling the stories and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden, what?
Yeah, so I was also pushing 300 pounds and just, drinking all of my feelings away and all of that stuff. And one day, early on, as being a parent, my daughter was asleep early in the morning. The grocery guy knocks at the door for early morning delivery, and my dog starts barking. And anybody with a new kid knows whatever wakes the kid up dies. So I got out of bed as quickly as possible to try to shut this dog up. And literally just standing up, getting out of bed, I collapsed. My knee gave out on me, and I didn't know what was wrong and couldn't put weight on it, whatever. Ended up going to a bunch of different physical therapy and doctors trying to figure it out. Turned out to be some sort of nerve damage or whatever. But the physical therapist, in looking at my knees and hearing my family history, was like, if you don't get on a bike, you're going to end up replacing both of your knees. And so that seemed insane and ridiculous. And I was like, I'm 30 something years old. I'm going to start riding a bike. I haven't done that since I was 6. This is stupid. So I did what I always did and went and complained to my brother about it. And he was the one that said, dummy, why don't you just start bike commuting? You're already, spending an hour on the bus. It can't take you that much longer on a bike. Do that. And so for whatever reason that clicked. I was like, yeah, I've been the weird guy for lots of reasons. Why not this one? I'll go get a bike and start bike commuting. And literally like a week later, I bought a bike on Craigslist. I started riding the 9 miles to work every day. And the craziest thing that happened was not only did I enjoy the ride, but I found that just having to really focus on right now, not crashing into the car coming around the corner, not getting hit by a pedestrian or whatever, being focused on right now, I found all this peace in an otherwise really dangerous activity. And so I remember going to my wife and saying like, God, I wonder how I could bring more of this into my daily life. And she was just like, I have no idea. Why don't you go talk to a therapist? And so I did. I found a therapist who taught me all about, meditation and Buddhism and like really just being present. And all of a sudden, like all the regrets I had about, 10, 20 years ago, all the worries I had about the next day at work, all the like imposter syndrome I was having about like, oh, they're going to find out one day that I don't really belong in this job I've had for a decade. Like it all just started to go away because I found that just by focusing on what's right in front of you right now, where are you right now? Are you fine? Like, let go of all the fears and the anxieties, but like, are you good? And I just found so much peace there. And so that just opened all kinds of doors to what else can I do to make this an even more enjoyable experience? Because I'd spent so long running from my feelings and running from my fears that I never stopped to realize that like, I actually had it pretty good. And so that was the opening to that. And it just led to one thing after another, a lot of conversations with Zach about other ways to sort of, I hate to say optimize, but to just do things a little better. And so every day has just become a bit of a journey to figure out how can I make this a slightly better experience.
Isn't that the key? I mean, and you guys are very upfront about that on your podcast is the small changes and trying to go that. I mean, I love the story that Zach told about, he texted his buddy and said, are you ever going to come back to the gym again? And he goes, yeah, I'm going to try to go one day a week. And hard ass over here said, well, I'm going to go 6 days a week. Right? That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. And on the 7th day, I'm just going to sit outside in the gym and tell everybody it's my day off. That's what I'm going to do.
That's a great idea.
Hey, enjoy your workout. It's my day off. I'm here 6 days a week. But, you guys go ahead. You're one day a week. Yay, good for you. So, that a boy, I'm not, but it's those little things. And I'm glad that they're the people, and we've seen them. Did you see that when the Rock did his TV show where he had the people trying the tight end games? You know what pisses me off more than anything? When did we drop the T's? When did we drop the T? There are certain words that we drop the T now. Or if you're a certain age, I'm going to climb that mountain, and then I'll be a tight end. But anyway, they would have these impossibly fit people on. And they would do the little vignette stories on them. And invariably, I get up at 3:30 in the morning and I'm at the gym from 4 till 7. And then I get off at 5 o'clock and I'm back at the gym at 5:30 and I work out till 9.
Yeah.
And my son, he looks at me and he goes, why do they work out that much? I said, so they can tell everybody they can work out that much. Yep. That's the only reason you do it. Because there's nothing that you're doing for your body that helps. At that point, you are literally, it's like marathon runners. And I run, know, it's hard to believe, but I don't do marathons. And I had my doctor, who's also a runner. He goes, listen, once you get past a certain threshold, you are now hurting your body. That's all you're doing. He goes, but now if you want to, and you want to go through that, and I've got buddies who are 100-mile runners. You know, one of them almost died because his kidneys shut down halfway through the run. Right? And I'm like, was it worth it? You know, and he goes, well, hell, I got a great story. I'm like, you do? You do.
Yeah.
But how you guys try to keep it within the realm of possibilities. And your guests and the people you talk to, I've enjoyed how we set each other up to think that, okay, I mean, you know, again, The Rock, it's his job to look like that, you know, and a professional athlete, it's their job to worry about, oh, I need 1.2 ounces of chicken and 4 pieces of broccoli and 2 gallons of water today. But that's their job, right?
Right.
The rest of us, our job is to raise our kids, to be worth a damn, to show up, to be present. And that requires a whole different mindset, and it requires a whole different approach to what you're doing. And I'm just fascinated by this. I mean, Zach, where did you, first of all, I didn't grow up in those circumstances. My father was a drug addict and alcoholic. And one of those things, but he fought World War II and came back through it, you know.
Yeah.
But I've learned to forgive him because I did not live his life. I did not know what was going on. But where are you at in that journey?
That's a good one. I don't think anyone has asked me that question before. That's a good one. I spent a lot of years under the impression that there was nothing wrong like with my mother, and that it would, you know, the universe conspired to take me away from her, and she was the greatest. And once my eyes opened when I was a teenager and realized the reality of, you know, that she neglected me and to the point of child abuse, right? It was not, you know, a couple hours here and there. I did resent her for it, and I spent a lot of years not liking her and hating her. And then ultimately, I kind of forgave her, was helping her, was doing things for her, but she was always distant. Like she never came through on any promises. She was, I'll be very blunt. She was a train wreck. She was an absolute train wreck of a human being. Like anything that could go wrong went wrong, and it was usually her fault. And I kind of forgave her for that, and I bailed her out wherever I could. But then when I had my daughter, and she started hurting my daughter in the same way that she was hurting me by not showing up, by not calling, by not coming to see her, then I was like, you know what? I'm out. I can't do this anymore. And I just walked away. Like I didn't walk away in hatred or anything like that. I was like, I'm not exposing my daughter to this. She died a few years ago, and I had made peace with the fact that I would never kind of have that relationship with my mother, and it was never going to be there for me. So when she died, I actually didn't feel I felt bad in the sense that she died and she lost her life. I didn't feel bad that I lost my mother, though, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
But I've made peace with that. Like she did the job that she knew how to do. She had a whole bunch of trauma in her life. Had she gone to school in today's day and age, she would have been classified as special needs. Her IQ was very, very low. She did what she had the tools to do with. I mean, she didn't get that special assistance. She didn't get any help. So I forgive her for what she did to me and what she did to my kid. And, you know, God rest her soul. Like I hope that she's not suffering anymore, because I have to imagine that like all the things that she did, she knew about it. She felt guilty to some extent. I really hope that she's at peace in some way, shape, or form. I'm at peace because I can't dwell on that, right? You'll destroy yourself if you dwell on situations like that. You just have to move on, be okay with it, and forgive it.
Well, you could use the same word when I describe my father, because he died when I was a senior in high school. And when I tell my sons, because again, I didn't have children till much later on, that I told him what he was disappointing, that he would find a way to disappoint you in every single way. And my youngest son, who's got just the most tender heart.
At Reed Animal Hospital, they treat your pet as if it was their own. Now, I'm a very satisfied customer. I can tell you they mean that. It's not a chain. It truly is about helping you and your pet enjoy life together. Dr. David Reed and his entire staff take the time to get to know you and your pet. I can tell you what I like. He's helped me better understand what my dog Luna needs and how I can take care of her more efficiently and kindly. Find them online at reedanimalhospital.com. 2 locations, Saratoga and Campbell. Little secret from me to you, Dr. Reed actually gives you his cell number so he can answer your questions and concerns. They really are committed to you and your pet. reedanimalhospital.com.
I'm with Mike and Brenda Council with another real Mike Council Plumbing and Rooter story. And let's talk about the early days. What was it like?
Well, when we first started, the phone was by the bed.
So just the two of you?
Exactly.
And I would answer the emergency calls in the middle of the night. I'd wake up and answer them.
2:00, I'm headed out the door.
So 30 years ago.
30 years and 6 months.
But I hear Mike Council Plumbing might have had its beginnings when you were, what, a kid?
Yeah, I grew up in a little one-room shack, and we had an outhouse out back.
An outhouse?
That's correct.
Oh, my.
And ended up with a great appreciation for indoor plumbing.
Yeah, I guess. And when you finally got it?
It was a great day.
Since 1993, the people of San Jose and the South Bay have trusted Mike Council Plumbing and Rooter for all their plumbing needs. From emergencies like a drain backup or water leak, maybe you need a new water heater or fixture installed, a gas appliance hooked up. Give Mike Council a call at 408-217-1002 or go to mcplumbing.com, an official partner of the San Jose Sharks.
You're in clean hands with Mike Council Plumbing and Rooter.
I want to go on your side. You said that you stopped drinking, you changed lives because you had been, and you're going through therapy and it's been helping you. And what is it that you've learned about yourself? What was it that you didn't like?
Oh,
Because
I still have a long list.
But what we all do. and you know what they call people who love themselves? Psychopaths.
Right, exactly.
Right? I mean, there's it's built into the grain of what makes everything balance out.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know that that the list is any different than anybody else's, but I think it was really more the soundtrack in my head. It was just a constant stream of you're not good enough, success is for other people, good things happen to other people, you don't deserve good things. Anytime I would screw something up, oh, you effing idiot! Like I can't believe you're so foolish that you would allow such a thing to happen. I think the most surprising thing was a recent discovery where I learned that those voices, the things that I was saying to myself, were not me. And what I mean by that is, yes, it was the voice in my head. It was things I was thinking, but I actually witnessed one of my parents at a family event sort of saying out loud, like lowering the bar of expectations for everything that was about to happen at this function, like setting it up so that like just by showing up, just by delivering on the promise of, dinner, that it would be enough. And it was so funny because I watched this happening and I heard all these words and I was like, oh my God, that's the voice that's been in my head for 40 years of just like, better make sure everyone knows that I'm doing my best here and it's not going to be very good, but just by being here, that's enough. And so that was the most surprising thing, is that all these things I believed about myself, or these things I've been saying to myself, are seeds that were planted when I was a kid of that parent, other parents, other people I looked up to, that I didn't really separate, being a different person than them. It was like, if it's true for them, it's true for me. And so that, along with a lot of work I've done in the last couple of years, I've actually been able to completely remove that voice, and I no longer have those thoughts. I literally remember the last time I had one of those thoughts. I was at my mom's house and I went to brush my teeth and I didn't pack my toothbrush. And as I was looking through my bag, I started to say, "You idiot, I can't believe you forgot." And that's where it stopped. I went, or you were in a hurry running out the door to get to the place you had to get to on time, and you forgot, like a normal human being. These things happen. You're not flawed because you forgot your toothbrush. Otherwise, that would have been a 3-day conversation in my head about what an idiot I am, right? But I learned to turn that off, to flip that switch, to say, no, mistakes happen. It's okay. So I think that's one of the biggest things, is just really learning what you believe about yourself and why you believe it. Where did you pick that up? Because for most of us that have these limiting beliefs, these limiting ideas about what this experience is supposed to be, I would bet that it's something you learned as a kid by looking up to other people that maybe weren't living up to their potential and and believing that you also could not live up to a better potential. So I think that's kind of a long-winded answer to your question.
It's a podcast. We love long-winded answers.
That's right.
One of the things I do, a little Jedi mind trick when it comes to parenting, and it goes back to what you're saying. I will, if we're taking a situation where, somebody's upset about something or what I try to do is I say it out loud. So I'll go, so let me get this right. You're upset that he's reading your comic book that you're not reading. Because in our mind, when it's up here, it makes total sense. But when somebody says it out loud and you go, wait, no, that's not. I mean, yeah, but, right? And I've learned that I'll do that to myself. That I'll go, okay, Gare, let's say this out loud. And just me back here doing stuff. And because I do radio and podcasting, my families don't think anything of it.
That's right.
That I'm going,
oh, Gary's talking to himself again.
Yeah, I'm sure he's talking to somebody. Who's he there? Yeah. He's probably talking to Tim McGraw. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. But saying those things out loud and bringing it at, as you said, the universe. I love one of your podcasts where you're talking about, I don't want to say anything out loud because it'll burn the house down if I say I've got my my fire extinguisher.
Right.
But you do get it out there to hear what it sounds like logistically, and then go from there.
And because otherwise there's a huge story you're attaching to all of those thoughts, and it ties into those core beliefs that you have, and it just becomes this nonsense that makes you furious about whatever the minor infraction is or whatever.
And
when you say it out loud, you realize how insignificant it really
you realize
is.
how insignificant it is. But even just hearing it from somebody else or saying it yourself, when it's vocalized, like scientifically, it just activates different parts of your brain, like your vocal processing areas of your brain, and it allows you to interpret the data differently. So it literally changes the microscope lens of whatever that thing is just by saying it out loud or hearing it out loud.
I love that. Are both of you journaling, or is it just, are you still journaling?
Well, I journal. I don't know about Jeremy.
I try to, but I often look at the page and I go, what am I doing this for? I've always enjoyed complaining out loud more than on the page. So that's
you should have gotten radio. That's what I do for a living.
I did. I spent 20 years in radio.
Yeah. So you're just, where were you at? You're in Bristol?
Seattle.
At Seattle?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you decided you wanted to actually own a home one day and got out? Is that what it is?
No, I actually owned a home and sold it. So now I'm renting in another country.
Wow. Good for you. Well, you understand. And that's where we try to find the negative about it. And that's one of the things I've sat back and said, the birth rate's going down. And you know why the birth rate's going down? Because we're doing this horrible job of telling young people how cool being a parent is. You want to lose me as a comedian? Get on and start talking about, kids, and they're on planes, and you are the worst comedian in the world. You are not Kevin Hart, nor you will never be Bill Burr. You are that guy who's going to be playing the Chuckle Hut somewhere outside of Spokane. Right. And that's all you'll ever be. But we've done this whole big thing of not telling them how amazing it is. Is it hard? Hell yeah. Is it impossible? Not even. Not even kinda. As you stepped back and said, we laugh at it because I use humor. Hey, just try not to disappear for 4 days. Try not to get so drunk you fall into a fan and cut your head. How about not telling everybody this is the best we're going to do and it sucks?
Yeah.
And you'll be amazing.
Yeah. The bar is quite low.
Yeah. And they bring so much joy to you. I've always respected the people who can journal, right? Cause that is a muscle memory skill set that you just have to do. It is truly lifting weights, which I hate so much. But it's that whole process. And of course, you, the weightlifter, Zach, of course you'd do that because it is, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do this. But I bring this up. Did you see this study that came out a few weeks ago? Because, it's what we do in morning radio. We find interesting stuff to talk about. And this was, I think it was the American Medical Association. They came out with 3 things that you can do to make your body work better. Number 3, sleep. Number 2, drink more water. You know what number 1 was? Find something to be grateful for.
Yep.
Number 1. Now, this wasn't priests. This wasn't philosophers. This wasn't life coaches. This is the Medical Association.
Yep.
Saying if you can find something to be grateful for, and literally I've got my little note thing. I start off every day and I just find one thing to be grateful for. And it makes a huge difference.
That it seems silly. It really does. I mean, even myself, knowing everything I know about it, is still going, whatever. However, like I read a quote somewhere that says like, you can't be grateful and unhappy at the same time. Like the emotions just don't go well together. So, and I've done it so many times now. Like if I'm at the gym and I'm having a hard time, like, getting a move, there's like this thing called double unders where the jump rope goes under your feet twice in one jump. Really hard. And I get really mad when I can't do it. And I have literally calmed myself down from throwing the jump, across the room and embarrassing myself in a rage, at the gym by just looking across the room at the coach and going, I'm really, really grateful that person's in my life and that they're helping me and they're teaching me and they're doing great things for me. I'm so grateful. And like the anger dies. And then I continue to screw up the double unders, but I'm grateful for it. So every single morning, so my journaling consists, like I do it all on a big whiteboard now and I write it all down. And it's this big scribble mess of my brain, which is literally a mess. And every day there's 3 things that I'm grateful for on there. And it just sets that day up to be really great. And the days I don't do it, I'll snap at somebody late in the day. My child gets my anger, like just something. It doesn't go right if I don't do that gratefulness practice at the beginning of the day. It's amazing the difference that little thing makes. And again, my old self would totally rib my current self. And my current self even ribs myself whenever I'm writing down, you know what? Today I'm just thankful for coffee. Thank God for coffee. Right? It makes a huge difference.
I can already tell you what tomorrow's grateful thing is. I'm grateful I don't do double jumps. That's and nor will I ever know at all.
I subject myself to a fair amount of pain that could probably be avoidable.
Zach, you really need to start loving yourself, man. It's the greatest love of all. Didn't you ever hear Whitney Houston? I mean, come on.
I know.
It's like, you just got to get there. And the thing about biking, Jeremy, okay, you can either take the bike seat crushing that nether region, or you can't. And during the pandemic, my wife got a Peloton, right? So I'm like, and here's a little secret about it. My wife buys exercise equipment and then doesn't use it. I'm cheap, so therefore I'm going to use hell out of it.
Sure.
Right? So I was on that Peloton every day until I realized I would be numb from my belly button to my knees. And I'm like, that can't be good. You know, it's not like I'm using that area all the time anyway, boom, checka, wow, wow. But when I do, I want to be ready.
Sure.
You must be one of those guys who have no problem with the numb nethers.
I mean, that sounds like a bad seat. If I'm being honest, like that's a pretty
That's
fixable
what
thing
all
on
the
a
people
normal
who are
bike.
not numb nethers say. We've changed that damn seat 3 times.
Okay, I don't know. I think there's a difference too between the stationary bike and riding a normal bike too, because just the way you use your body to propel it is different. When you're on a Peloton or a stationary bike, you're sitting there pedaling. You're not thinking about, I've got to get around this corner. I've got to avoid that pothole. I've got to avoid that door that's about to open. And so there's a lot more, like you can kind of stand up and coast for a while. Like there's more flexibility when you're out there in the real world biking and trying to stay alive versus trying to stay alive through that 45-minute hellacious, exercise in your home gym or whatever. So I think that's part of it. But the other thing too is that, like Zach said, it's subjecting yourself to intentional pain. It's doing difficult things. And it took a long time and a talking to from Tony Horton, the creator of the P90X workout, when I was the same way. It's like, I hate lifting weights. I hate going to the gym. It's my least favorite thing. I will put it off indefinitely. How do I fix that? And Tony Horton looked me in the eyes and said, dude, your purpose sucks. It's like you don't have a good enough reason. There's not something that you're willing to subject yourself to that pain for to make it worth your while. And that still wasn't enough to make me go to the gym every day, but it lit the fuse. And eventually I found the purpose. And now I love it. Now I look forward to going to the gym because I know that I'm going to be able to put myself through something challenging, put myself through something hard and accomplish it, where I spent most of my life looking at the hard thing and running the other way. And so now every time I lift something heavy, I'm like, I did that. Every time I lift a little more than I did last time, I did that. I can do hard things. And so when something challenging comes up, I have to have a tough conversation with my kid, or something's hard at work that I don't want to do. Normally that would have been avoided for 3 or 4 weeks. Now I go, that's the thing I have to do, because that's on the other side of this challenge is the reward. And so it's just the training in the gym. Yes, it trains your body, but for me, it trains my mind to overcome those obstacles and to find the hard things in my life and lean into them, because I know that on the other side of that is the reward.
You still run, Zach?
I don't. I used to run. Geez, I mean, I've done a couple marathons, and like I used to run all the time. It was my go-to, and that, I mean, it was definitely my mental health release. And I did something to my knee, and to this day, if I run more than like 5K, something in my knee starts clicking, and it goes down into my ankle, and then I can't walk for 3 weeks. Like I don't know what it is. So no, I don't run anymore. And it took me a long time to kind of find that alternative, because there is a runner's high. There is definitely something to it. And I could never get it with biking. And I was always comfortable on a bike seat, but biking, you just don't exert yourself in the same way. Unless you go looking for a hill, and I was not looking for a hill. But yeah, no, it took me a long time to find something that like equated to it. And, how do you know if somebody does CrossFit? Because they tell you they do CrossFit. But I did find a CrossFit gym in my local area that I go to. Not because I like drink the Kool-Aid. I really, I love the owner. I love the coaches there. And in my busy life, like we were talking about earlier, like I don't have time to train all day. And a CrossFit gym, the workout is prescribed. You literally show up, you do exactly what they tell you to do, and you leave, and you're out in an hour. It's like you're in, you're out, done. So that's what I do. There is running involved in it, but it's definitely not more than a 5K. Well, actually, sometimes it is, but.
My thing on CrossFit is I love how much people who love CrossFit love it. It does not bother me. I've got a couple of friends. I got one, he is a CrossFit junkie, but I always tell him, dude, you're like 4'11",
mm-hmm.
right? But he's built to lift heavy things. He is.
Yep.
And we sit back and talk about it. And I love the fact that that's what he does. He goes and we'll meet on Saturdays after thing. And you should watch what this guy eats. I'm like, yay for you. And how they love it. I run simply because it's the least problematic.
Yep.
I literally put on my shoes and my shorts and I go run.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to do anything. Problem is, it's just a time thing.
Yeah.
I listen to some podcasts, but mainly I listen to audiobooks because it changed the world. When you run and when you're listening to music, it becomes a measurement of time. And you start going, I need to listen to 9 more songs or 12 more songs. But if somebody's telling you a great story.
Yep. Huge difference.
But now, speaking of reading, I got to get to the nerd part. All the Star Wars books, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Zach's read all.
I've read every Star Wars book, and at the current moment, I can't say I've read every Star Trek book because they just released 3 in the last few months, and I'm on book number 2 right now.
I have read a lot of the Star Trek books. I've not read any of the Star Wars books, but I had read them all up until maybe 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I think after Shatner released his books, because Shatner did Star Wars, but Star Trek books. And then frankly, I got busy.
Yeah.
I got busy in that.
I read probably an unhealthy amount. If you can read an unhealthy amount, that would be me. I listen to audiobooks too. So I'm always listening to an audiobook, and then I have a book by my bed, and I have a book in my office at home, and a book like on the living room table. And I probably get through at least 2 books a week. sometimes 3 or 4. And like, it is just, and I read fast. I guess that's my caveat. Like, I read a lot because I read really, really fast and I can get through a book really quick, but I just consume knowledge and I love it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like, and being in radio, Jeremy, you end up learning so many things.
Oh yeah.
And they'll say, and I don't know why so many things, right? And just the most bizarre things. And I read a lot too. When I was a kid, before the internet, the only thing we had the encyclopedia. My sister had the encyclopedia, and I literally read the encyclopedia.
Wow.
All the way through. And you ended up coming up with all this crazy knowledge about crazy things. But I love reading too. And the thing that you learn about podcasts, you can't see it. But I just have a whole shelf over here of, because you talk to authors. And I refuse to talk to one until I've read their book.
Yep,
sure. And
you know what's shocking? And I'm sure you guys have found this out too. How many of them are shocked that you actually read the book?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
That comes up every single time when you ask. We have like question, like, so on page 47, you said blah, blah, blah. What, can you elaborate on that? Because we weren't quite sure about, and they're like, what? You read the book? Oh my God.
In defense of a lot of those authors, I have had plenty of publicists that I will ask for the book and we'll try to get one out. I don't know if I can put one in the mail. Like, it's funny how resistant a lot of the publicists are to actually sending the book.
I've been let out with the publicists because they send me the books like lickety split. Literally just one yesterday reached out to me and I said, send me the book. She goes, it's on its way. Got it in the mail this afternoon.
Nice.
And
That's
I'm
great.
like, okay. And I always tell them, you got to give me 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Because give me time to actually read the book along with all the others that I'm reading.
That was always my favorite, when the book would show up after the interview's already done.
I had this happen one time. They sent me the book. I read it. And they were like, we're, scheduling the podcast time. The person who was supposed to go never showed up. And so I reached out and I said, hey, did something happen? And they're like, oh yeah, well, they canceled the tour. They're not doing anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, okay.
Good luck to them.
I guess I got that free book for no reason. And I read it and it wasn't that damn good to start off with.
Now you know why it was canceled.
Yeah. I'm like committed to this because this is what, and I'm at that age now where I don't want, there's some things you're just too old for. Right. And I don't watch movies that aren't worth the damn. I don't watch TV shows, no matter how much these are great. If I watch, nah, it's not for me.
Yeah.
And TV shows change. I was a Doctor Who fan.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Huge Doctor Who fan. Well, now they've kind of just changed the entire series. And I was talking to a friend of mine and he was all angry about it. And I'm like, dude, we had a great run. It's somebody else's show now. Same thing with Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still I was ticked at Star Wars because in my opinion, they took everything that was cool about it and said, no, that didn't matter.
Yeah.
That wasn't real. Luke and Leia, they weren't anything. They were, nah. But then I just had to let it go and go, no. I had my run and I can enjoy for what it is. And now it's somebody else's. And if they're correct, they'll have a great run. And if they're not correct, it'll blow up and die. And then somebody will go, hey, we should do it the way we used to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything is cyclical by every metric.
Yeah.
It'll all come back around and it'll be ours again or theirs or whatever. But how do you feel about, since you're both Star Wars fans, you had to see the movie at least, Jeremy. You had to see all the movies.
Oh, yeah, of course. I've seen all the movies. I just watched Rogue One again. I love the Ahsoka series. The Andor series was okay for me. I didn't love that one. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with that. I'm bummed that they're not going to do a second season of Obi-Wan. But yeah, no, I love it. I just we just finished Clone Wars with my kids. I'd already seen it, but my kids are now old enough to start watching that. So we got through Clone Wars. I'm trying to get them caught up on the series so that when all these new things come out, we can watch them together. But yeah, no, I mean, look, I'm a they can do no wrong kind of guy. Like it's Star Wars, right? Like for most of my life, I had 3 movies to watch over and over again. So if they want to keep telling me stories, I'm going to keep signing up for them because those stories were the backdrop of my life. They were the morality, the lessons I learned. I used to have a poster in my room that said everything I needed to know about life I learned from watching Star Wars. I mean, I absolutely love it. Whenever we get the chance to go to Disney, I'm in Galaxy's Edge way too long, like uncomfortably long. I want to stay there. I don't ever want to leave. Hey, Star Wars, here's my money. Shut up and get to work.
Yeah.
And now let's go to the bitter party.
That's right.
Yeah. But I'll having read all the books, like I didn't just have the 3 movies to watch. Like I remember being way too young to be reading some of the Star Wars books when they originally released. Like Heir to the Empire was the very first one that came out, and I couldn't wait. And I couldn't really read all that well at the time when it came out, and I just slogged through it because it was Star Wars. I didn't care. But when the last 3 movies came out, this is like the new era. I feel like that's what you're referencing, is these new movies that just came out. I watched them all and I was disappointed, and because my heroes weren't there. My heroes weren't who I thought they would be. It was different than what I thought it was going to be. And I watched them, I was disappointed. And then I went back and watched them again, and I told myself, I was like, look, let's take my heroes out of it and watch this story for the new heroes. Let's watch their story. So I removed Luke, I removed Leia, I removed Han, as much as I could anyway, and just watched it for these new characters. And I was like, that's a good story. That's a good story. Some of them were not a good story, but for the most part, they were good stories of those people. And I really enjoyed them a lot more by kind of disassociating what I expected from my childhood to be there. Like you were saying before, it's different. It's new. It's not the same thing. And you just have to change your perspective, and you can still enjoy that stuff.
I saw somebody say the other day, the brilliance of Star Wars is they don't tell stories for now, they tell stories for 20 years from now. Because when the prequels came out, everyone dumped on them, hated them, like Hayden Christensen, driven out of acting. Like, it got torched, the prequel trilogy. Now that's, kids grew up, that was their Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
So the current movies that are there, that's going to be in 20 years, they're going to be talking about watching Rey, fight Palpatine and all this stuff. They have an ability to keep bringing it back around every couple of decades.
No,
and all
the
of a sudden
only
it's just
joy I get
relit.
out of anything is to know that one day, 20 years from now, somebody who thinks Rey is awesome is going to have somebody come out and just crap all over her and go, she was stupid, right? And see, that's my thing is I understand what you're saying, Zach. My response is, well, then just leave them out of it. I should not have you shouldn't have to remove Luke and Leia and Hans and all of those people from the movie. Just either reboot it, if you want to do what Star Trek did and create an entirely different universe. There are no rules for you now. I thought that was brilliant.
Yep.
That you can just go and make anything you want, any kind of universe you want, and there you go. And if you want to Spider-Man it and bring all the different universes together, that's fun too. But don't take the original and then change it.
Yeah.
Don't go to, I'm not going to go to McDonald's and then have them hand me a cracker and an oyster and go, yeah, that's the new hamburger.
Right. Mm.
No, this is a cracker and an oyster. And don't make me go, because that's what gets me. I don't like it when we're redefining meaning.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where we're at society today, not to get political, and I'm not, but we're constantly having to redefine meanings. That's what everybody's trying to do. No. This isn't yellow. This is Slava. What the hell does that mean? Well, but it's not yellow. That's what it means. Right. And so even with movies, when you sit back and you go, all right, if you want to call it Star Wars, then create a different universe.
Yep.
Create a movie where it was just Rey. If the story stands up on its own, fine. And it was just,
Yeah.
But to contort it, the way they had to contort it, then you end up going, again, say it out loud. So listen, Palpatine was, and then they fell in love, but they did, and then she killed him, but he brings her back. Really?
Yeah.
Really? So, and you can tell.
I know.
And now, if you'll pull up your damn pants and get off my lawn.
Well, so actually, I know Jeremy didn't like the Andor series, but that's actually one of the things that's why I love the Andor series, is because it is Star Wars universe, And while Andor has a connection to Rogue One and the original movie, there's still that there's that little thread there. If you watch that series, there's no Jedi, there's no things familiar other than the fact that it's in the Star Wars universe. I loved it for that reason.
I did like that part of it, but I'm tuning into Star Wars for lightsaber battles. I'm tuning into Star Wars for Jedis. They're not there.
Yeah.
It's an interesting, it's a very methodical, paced story that was hard for me to get through because I like you're saying, Gary, I wanted Star Wars. I wanted lightsabers and they weren't delivering. And I appreciated that they were going like, hey, this whole other part of the universe is happening over here. That's cool. It's just not what I signed up for.
So that's what I tried to explain to my sons because I was trying to get them into Star Wars. And I, if you've read some of the books, stuff like that, the whole thing is that Jedis, listen, all you needed were 2 Jedis to control a planet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's all you needed. That's how powerful they were. And now here's Luke drinking blue milk and he can't do a damn thing. He can't defeat one army.
Yep.
Right. So you changed the rules. And I guess that's what upsets me is when you change the rules. If all of a sudden, what drives you crazy in the NBA? We watched a game last night and the player took 3-4 steps. And my son who plays basketball going, how could they not call that? And it was our guy, right? It was our guy, So we weren't saying it because it was the other team.
Yeah.
But we were like, hey, but he's a basketball player. And he's like, how could they not call that? Well, that's what pisses you off when they change the rules, isn't it?
Yeah.
Otherwise we don't have this commonality that we can kind of go on there.
Yeah.
You see, see what I've done? I've just spent this entire hour. We had a very interesting little hour as far as like it got deep, it got heavy, it got fun, and then it got weird.
Story of my life.
But that's every day.
Well, for you guys, and listen, and now do you have to go work? I'm going to go run. What are you going to do now? Zach, are you going to go lift something heavy? And Jeremy, is there a 28-mile bike ride within the next 20 minutes?
No, I worked out this morning at 5:30 in the morning. I'm done, complete. Most of my work day is done. I'm going to enjoy my weekend. I like to start my Fridays, start the weekend at 3:00. I close my laptop, done. I'm just going to go have dinner with my girlfriend and chill out. Maybe we'll watch Star Wars. That's a great idea.
I'm going to jump on another call after this, and then I'm going to go get in a really cold lake for a while.
So you're one of those Will Woofer guys.
Wim Hof, yes.
No.
Of his work.
I like the way Gary said it. That's how it's going to be forever.
Closer,
Yeah, just go that way. Now I understand why your nads don't hurt on a bike because they're all shriveled up. Your nads are somewhere near your lungs.
Water was cold. The water was cold.
Guys, this has been the best. Thank you. I would love to do it again.